Good night, welcome to What We're Drinking. I'm your host, Heath George. Tonight, my guest is a Virgin Islands historian, culturalist, an all-rounder, storyteller, and just one of the most interesting guys that I've met being on this island. Please join me. Welcome.
Very well. I'm just glad to be here.
So, first things first, let's get another drink.
Looks like it's worth. Wow. To you, sir. Wow.
Oh, damn, that's good. Man, that's good.
This is light, this is friendly.
It's amazing.
This is talented.
I know. I tell them we have the best bartenders all the time, but they don't want to believe me when I tell them that. But listen, to everyone out there, make sure you guys follow our bartender, Cali Libations. The link is down here below. And yo, I ain't gonna say no more. We got the best drinks, hands down. So, Kwabena, Mr. Kwabena. First question I have for you: who is Kwabena?
Well, Glen Kwabena Davis, born and raised in St. Thomas, educated in the public school system, graduated from the then College of the Virgin Islands, member of CAHS class of 67. I have been an educator, a public administrator with youth programs, a juvenile justice specialist, chief of staff, chief researcher to a couple of senators. I am a known editor. I have put together publications related to culture, particularly in the area of Calypso, when the Carnival committee booklets had went down. I continued that by promoting a lot of the local music. In addition to that, I've helped folks edit their master theses, doctoral dissertations, and I'm an ontologist. I like to think that I am, because I help folks collect their poetry, etc., help them put them in some shape and order. I am a guitarist, and yes, a storyteller. I also teach the art of storytelling, teach the art of composing songs, not just calypso, but just about any form. So there's quite a bit, and I made myself one who has a variety of skills and talents, because I believe it's very important for our young people to not focus on one area of knowledge, but they need to know as much as they can from young, so that if there is one area that's not suiting their needs, or it's failing in their interests, or others who have stronger skills are willing to move into their area of knowledge, that they have other things that they can count on. So Glen Kwabena Davis likes the idea.
Yeah, so apparently I'm not doing enough in my life. Obviously, this is an amazing resume, honestly. But this is Black History Month, and what I want to know is the VI history and the VI culture. How do we preserve that? Being that you have so much information, how do we preserve that culture and that history?
Well, a lot of us have been doing quite a bit. We've been collecting a lot of material, sharing with our public libraries and other repositories such as the Genealogy Library, to make sure that a lot of the written material is preserved. Secondly, when I was the Director of Cultural Education, and even my predecessors, what we tried to do was, and actually did, not try, but we would bring in a lot of the tradition bearers or take them into the schools. We made sure that we paid them and whatever resources they had to get, help them with the purchasing of that so that they can share the knowledge and that skills with others. Now, as you mentioned, Black History Week, one of the things that we continue to do is try to let people not only know what we have done here in the Virgin Islands, but what Virgin Islanders have been doing abroad to help other people develop their legacies as well. Because just for a quick example, how many people know that the great Hubert H. Harrison was a mentor to Marcus Garvey? How many people know that the great Ashley Totten, another Virgin Islander, he actually founded the Sleeping Car Porters Union, but E. Philip Randolph is credited as the founder. But Totten brought him in as the first president because of the attitudes and the fear that if someone from outside of the United States is heading up this organization, it would not have the support and impact from the Black American that they wanted. So it is things like this that we feel is very, very important. Our music, it is underemphasized. The fact that we also have a unique culinary feature in the entire region, it is hardly promoted and supported, by not just the powers that be, but those who have the money and that can help to push these things. They hardly do.
Being that someone from the Virgin Islands was a mentor to the late Marcus Garvey, and we have been able to help so much in the Caribbean and in the United States, with Black Lives Matter movement that has been happening, what is your take on that? And also, do you feel that we have a racial divide here in the Virgin Islands?
Well, let's deal with the Black Lives Matter. I think it is very important because when we have watched the levels of racial infamy to which the police across the continent and during this last vicious administration have been taking lives the way people would mash a cockroach, and there seems to be no remorse, no contrition in the heart of these people when they do this. We know that it is a movement that has even gone just beyond an attack on one set of people, and I'm speaking about the people of African descent, because if it was no different from what they did in the 1800s to the Indians, and if it continued the way it was, then of course the same perpetrators are going to turn on other ethnic groups, other races of people, and God knows where else it is going to lead. So it is significant. What was unique is that there was not only black people in this movement. There were white people, there was Asiatics, and just a wide variety of ethnic groups who became a part of it. So it became a world movement, and that's what made it very important. And my assessment of it is that its power remains in the people being focused and not finding frivolous things to jump on or allowing other people to give them missions that don't really fulfill a true purpose.
Zulu 11, fine Caribbean dining at Yacht Haven Grand.
Exquisite Jewelers presents to you the new Caribbean collection. Handmade designer pieces designed by J. Richardson himself, born and raised here in the Virgin Islands. Now, Exquisite Jewelers has partnered with Alpha Jewelers to now bring you that exclusive shopping experience where you could get this new collection exclusively at Alpha Jewelers. Come and get your new bracelets, earrings, chains, bangles. Check out this amazing, lovely collection, all hand designed by J. Richardson himself. So make sure you guys go online or go in the store, Alpha Jewelers down on Main Street, and make sure you guys go and get that timepiece that you want today.
At Alpha, you come as strangers and you leave as friends.
Speaking of focus, how do we solve this issue though? Because I think we've been, especially as Caribbean people and as black people from African descent, how do we fix this issue? Because history seems to be repeating itself, and it's just
The issue of division.
yes. How do we stop the treatment or the brutal treatment, unfair treatment of black African Americans and black people in general across the
Black
globe?
on black.
No, black people, the way we are treated by
Other people.
How do we fix that?
Well, again, a lot of it is going to begin with us, because when we allow ourselves to let people decide how we view history, that becomes a serious problem. When these islands were transferred, for instance, there was a superintendent of education whose mission was to take education and make little Americans out of the people here. So in other words, we had to give up our way of life, give up our values, which is the foundation of any culture, give up our identity, which is also key to who you are. And you can see over the 100 years how the erosion is taking place. We have to recognize the importance of knowing more about our past and stop making the same mistakes. We cannot allow our music to just focus on what can make money, even though it promotes things that are not of us, about us, and our pride, and the extent to which we have contributed to the history of the world. So it has to begin with us recognizing that, it being taught and promoted in the schools, and our not being afraid to defend ourselves firmly if we need to do it.
Speaking of defending ourselves, we tend to, as Caribbean people, we tend to treat each other differently depending on which island we come from. So you might be at one island, especially like Haitians, Antiguans, Dominicans, Kititians, Guyanese, Jamaicans, and we almost treat each other like we are different species in a sense. How do we fix that issue?
Well, again, 500 years of an attitude being beaten into our people, physically beaten into our people, is not something easy to break. But one of the things that we need to begin to fix, and this is where again charity begins at home. You would find that among ourselves and when you look at, let's say, our region as a whole, the bigger islands look down on the people from the smaller. Them is small island people. Okay? And in addition to that, you would have, like, let's look at the Virgin Islands, for instance. From the 1960s, and this was a systemic problem. Many people were made, young people were made to feel in particular that the fact that they are from here, they should not be walking out in the sun. You leave it for the people who come in to do the hard work.
So you felt entitled?
You see? Huh?
You felt entitled here?
It is not just a matter of entitlement. I'm just showing you how a system can turn people on themselves and against others. You see? So what would happen? The establishment of what was called a middle class, where you all should be working in the offices. This is where you would have people, okay, fine to become a teacher, fine to become a nurse, but someone who had electrical skills, plumbing skills, carpentry skills, masonry skills, he was encouraged to take a job working for the government, pushing papers, and not ply his trade. And he would work for 30 odd years for the government, retire. Hurricane Marilyn comes. He made over $300,000 in a matter of 2 years after Hurricane Marilyn, plying a trade that he left dormant for over 30 years. And what I'm saying is that sometimes the system itself promotes these things and push these things, and our people don't understand what is happening to them until decades later, when you have to now depend on others to come in and do the work that your young people should have been taught to do. So sometimes it is not just an attitude, but an attitude itself can develop when the people of any place, whether it's St. Kitts, Antigua, the Virgin Islands, they feel that the fact that this is their native land, they don't need to push themselves as hard. So others who come in, who have that energy and that drive to push themselves, and they would even make compromises, where, for instance, they will take a lesser salary in order to survive, because they didn't just come here to take a job. They came here because of opportunity, and they will deal with opportunity at any cost. But there are those who like to ply this thing, that people here don't like people from there, but it is something you will find in a lot of the islands in the Caribbean, okay? In every place you will find it. And again, we fall for this because it keeps us in our place.
So, I know you have the guitar right here, and the next question, hopefully we get to hear you play this before we leave this interview tonight, but how do we unify ourselves as Black people, as Caribbean people, and as Virgin Islanders?
Well, yes, if you go back to that biblical passage, charity begins at home. See, and this is where values become very important. Because if we do not begin to encourage that bit of identity, that bit of self, then we tend to accept only what others tell us is the correct thing to do, or what is the right thing to do. It may not be in our best interest, but because it becomes fashionable and they become trends, we take that on, and that's what we want, and that's what we accept. Why do you think in a lot of islands and a lot of places, the music is dying? And the music is so important because people focus on the monetary aspect, so we don't need to do what is of that particular place. And you find that throughout the Caribbean. So it begins with family. And then we move on. But again, our values are key.
So values and family is what we kind of have to work on as a people. Now, as we get ready for a close, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? Someone like yourself, a storyteller, historian, culturist, someone who understands our history. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind for people like myself and others, young like myself, who are coming up?
Well, I have a passion for lifelong learning, and I continue to push in the classroom. Even though I'm retired and I volunteer teach at Moravian School, I always tell folks, being an independent learner is key. Right now we're going through this virtual thing, and sometimes you ask a student a question and you could hear a parent shuffling the paper and telling the child softly the answer, instead of allowing the student to continue to do the work that they are supposed to do. So I would hope that as I continue to advocate for preservation and promotion of self, and this is as a people, in whatever island you are from, whatever place you are from, letting people know who you are through your music, through your poetry, through your stories, through your food, through your skills and resources, who you are. It is so very important. Because even when you look at the Virgin Islands, we have a wide variety of ethnic groups. You know what I used to hear when I was growing up? You would have French here and someone, black, have a conversation. And you would then say, and them white people, so and so and so. And for us, it wasn't strange. But for others who hear this French person, blue-eyed, blonde hair, pale as can be, Saint Thomas, them white people and so on and so on. It was not. Yeah, it was to a lot of people, but there wasn't that that divide between us. I mean, it has inserted itself in. But my legacy is that I hope that I can leave is that people remember me as an advocate for independent learning and having a way of life that we are so proud of, that we can spread it the way the Jamaicans do, the way the Southern Black Americans do, through their gospel music, and be unafraid. Be unafraid. Because we have never been a scared people, or we would not have taken our emancipation and not have it handed to us. And this is why I think it's very important that we understand. When you give up your behind, you're going to sit on your ribs. A little story for you. A hog and a fowl was going down the street. They see a sign mark, give the poor something to eat. The fowl say, yes, that's a must. Let we get the poor a ham and egg breakfast. The hog say yes. Then he think again. He say, not that, my friend. The egg you give is a natural contribution anytime. But the ham got to come from my behind.